Okay, now it says it's on.
Yeah, did that before as well.
Okay.
It gives you two goes. We actually give you two jokes in one.
Okay. So this is where it sinks.
Oh, that's better.
It does look better. We're on.
Okay.
We're on.
So we're definitely live,
Yes.
streaming and recording. Great. Okay. Welcome everybody to the Ordinary Council meeting being held on Tuesday the 28th of January at Ayindi. I would like to begin with the Kaurna acknowledgement. The City of Prospect acknowledges that we are on the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains region, and we pay our respect to elders past, present and emerging. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationships with the land, and we acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna people living today. And now the Council Pledge. We seek wisdom and understanding as we face the duties of our united task, praying for the peace and prosperity of our city. Thank you. Okay, item 2 on the agenda, on leave, there are nil. Item 3, apologies. We received an apology from Councillor Tweena Wynn. Item 4 on the agenda, indication of intention to declare a conflict of interest. Would any elected members like to declare a conflict of interest for any of the items on the agenda tonight? That being the case, we'll move on to item 5, confirmation of minutes. Recommendation there. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Barnett, would you like to speak to the motion?
No need.
Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Trindwin, would you like to speak to the motion? Any further discussion? If not, I don't see any need to sum up to you, Councillor Barnett. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Public question time. We allow up to 15 minutes of question time from the public, and I think the max is 3 minutes. Are there any questions from members of the public? If not, we'll move on to item 7 on the agenda, petitions. There are nil. Item 8 on the agenda, deputations. We have one deputation being presented to invite Gail to come to the table. Do we need to ask, I think, name and address for the purposes of the minutes? Yes. Okay.
My name is Gail Searle, and I'm from the Prospect Club in Menzies Court.
So, Gail, you have 5 minutes, and then at the end of 5 minutes, elected members may or may not have some questions for you. So, I'm just going to turn my stopwatch on. Our presentation is up and ready to go. Over to you, Gail.
Good evening, my name is Gail Searle and I'm President of the North Adelaide Croquet Club, Menzies Court, Prospect. Next. Firstly, who we are. North Adelaide Croquet Club has a strong, clear vision and mission. We are a supportive and inclusive sporting community offering high quality croquet facilities and programs whilst contributing positively to the local community within a welcoming social environment. Our goals inform the direction of our current strategic plan for 2025 to 2030. Next. We have a significant heritage within the Prospect community. We are very proud of the fact that in March 2026, we will be celebrating 100 years of croquet in Prospect. Next. North Adelaide Croquet Club Incorporated is affiliated with Croquet SA and the Australian Croquet Association. It is independently financial with income from membership fees, fundraising, hiring court facilities and grant applications. We function as a not-for-profit sporting club guided by a comprehensive constitution and set of bylaws, a registered business number and liquor licence. Next. Croquet is a whole life sport playable from school age to end of life. It is a game of skill and mental agility. It provides gentle exercise at recreational level, together with vigorous physical skill and finesse at a competitive level. Providing access to croquet opens up options for people who aren't catered for by sports such as tennis, cricket, football and soccer. Physically, it is a viable game for almost everyone. It provides mental stimulation, improved self-esteem, goal attainment and satisfaction of participating while enjoying the social interaction. Croquet is an enjoyable and sociable way of being physically active, thus supporting one of the PLP objectives as highlighted on the screen, creating a quality health, wellness, fitness and sporting precinct that attracts the highest level of community usage and sporting participation. Next. Having been shocked by the proposal to withdraw the Croquet Club from the PLP development, our members and many other supporters have written many letters to express their significant concerns about this proposal and to request that other options be considered that will retain the North Adelaide Croquet Club within the Prospect Lifestyle Precinct. We are not prepared to remain silent over this issue. Next. North Adelaide Croquet Club has maintained the original Prospect Bowling Club rooms, greens and croquet lawns since 2002, when North Adelaide Croquet Club formed with Prospect Council agreement to the lease of the lawns and the clubroom facilities. All have been maintained to a very high standard that is the envy of most other clubs. At high expense to our club, for the lawn maintenance, we now are one of very few clubs that can host state and national croquet competition events. We are proud to host these prestigious events within the Prospect community and over so many years, and as a result have brought many visitors to the area. Next. Our continuing focus to engage community includes partnering with Prospect Community Support Team and the Active Living program, connecting with local businesses for team building social croquet events, inviting local families and friends to Sunday afternoon come and try croquet. Clubroom facilities continue to be available for hire for a range of events, collaborating with Council to align with the PLP objectives. And the North Adelaide Croquet Club would be open to collaboration for possible co-partnership lease arrangements. Next. The North Adelaide Croquet Club can support the PLP objectives earlier stated, creating a quality health, wellness, fitness and sporting precinct that attracts the highest level of community usage and sporting participation. The closure or relocation of North Adelaide Croquet Club would deny local residents of Prospect and surrounding suburbs access to another active living option, forcing the removal of a historically significant and active community from the Prospect lifestyle area. We respectfully request that the councillors consider at least 3, if not 4 courts be retained within the Prospect lifestyle precinct proposal. For the club to continue to host high-level croquet competitions whilst still providing social inclusion options to all community members, we welcome further discussions regarding the inclusion of North Adelaide Croquet Club in the Prospect Lifestyle Precinct proposal. Next.
Sorry, you're...
Thank you. That's my last one.
Leader.
Thank you for the opportunity to present.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Gail from the floor? Councillor Sandon, then Councillor Groot.
What a fantastic presentation. Thank you for that. It was succinct, got it within time, and we got everything we need to get. I have a couple of questions. One or two things in there you mentioned in your presentation about co-location with other sports. Does croquet sit, could you share or can you share other sports with on a croquet field?
It would be possible to share bowls. I have researched a little further, seeing as that was brought up before. It is possible, but the damage that is affected by both of either or all game would need to be negotiated as to how the maintenance of something like that was to be covered. With bowling, you have movement of at either end, so you've got affecting those lawns. In our case, we have holes in the lawn where we have to put our hoops, but it's not to say it wouldn't be possible.
The other question I have is there a standard, I've never asked this question before, is there a standard or regulated size of a croquet court?
Yes, there is.
And the ones that we have there, are they over, within, or just?
No, they are the standard because we're required to have the standard for a state and national competition. We're actually hosting a AC national competition in March there and preparing for that as well.
Thank you for that. And look, I thank you for the actual campaign, we'll call it a campaign, that the Croquet Club have been ramming against, to the active members. It's been absolutely, I've never seen a club more passionate about keeping what they do, and I commend you for it.
Questions?
Thank you.
I'll let you finish, Councillor Stanley. That didn't sound like a question towards the end of me, but I'll let you get away with that one. Councillor Groot, then Councillor Rebecca.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Gail, for coming on tonight, and thank you. There's a question here, Mayor. Thank you for, again, your advocacy across the whole organisation. I've not seen it like this since we built this building, to be honest, so it's great to see that. I've got a couple of questions for you. The first one is, I just want to clarify the sort of 2, 3 or 4 courts. You've got in your presentation here 3, that you could kind of live with 3. Can I just confirm you could live with 3?
If we had to,
Could you live with 2?
that would be not our preferred option.
Yeah. So that's my first question. The second question, are you more committed to location of where it is or the facility? So, for example, if it wasn't exactly where it is, but somewhere else in the PLP, I'm just trying to think really broadly at the moment, is that like if you had 3 courts somewhere else in the precinct, but it wasn't exactly where you are now, is that an issue for you, or is that something you could do?
Within the precinct,
Yeah.
I guess that would be something we would be amenable to considering.
So I'm asking you tough
It's
questions,
the
and
club
you're representing a lot of
and-
people. I
and
know,
being
so.
there
Yeah.
and having the courts is what's important for us, and the standard of courts that we've got.
My third question was just in relation, you mentioned that you've got some national championships happening soon.
Yeah.
How many courts do you need for that?
4,
You do need the 4?
and we're using 4.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Rebecca.
One of the things, I guess, with a lot of the groups, we've had contact from the umbrella organisation. I understand it's Croquet SA.
Yes.
Have they been engaged with PLP yet, or is that something we might seek to do in the future?
Well, they were one of the ones that have been sending information to you as well. Their response to that, yes, they're very much aware of it and concerned.
And just following that, so with, I guess, Croquet SA, what's obviously the importance, just to highlight again, the importance of your club as part of this? 4 clubs?
Sorry?
The importance of your club,
Yes.
as far as the success of Croquet SA as an organisation. What's your role?
Well, in terms of Croquet SA, they see our facility as being one of the significant options for actually maintaining state and national competition, because we need 4 courts for the large numbers that come and to be able to run the competition. So for them, it's very critical for us to be still available. In that sense, there's only one other club that has 4 courts.
Councillor Barnett and I have a question.
Yes, thank you again for your presentation. So, if there were 4 courts, then there could be the possibility that you're able to extend the amount of activities offered, like has been suggested in some of the PLP reports about yoga, fitness classes, obviously things that wouldn't mess up the playing surface. So do you have any further comment on about, like, with 4 courts, basically apart from when it's not being used for national or international or state, how else you envisage could be used, the 3 or 4 combination?
Well, obviously, the lawns are our most important facility and part of our facility. So whatever, we're happy to share the space, but they cost us a lot. They have to be at a really high level to be used, and we're using them 5 or 6 times a week with our own club. So willing to share, but whatever we share with, we would have to be aware of no damage to the courts in the process of doing that. So, I mean, we have to be obviously open to combining our usage of that. That's acknowledged, but it's more of being able to retain the forecourts.
I had a question, Gail. A few parts to it. Do you need forecourts to run your regular competitions, or is it only when you're hosting a state or a national event that forecourts are essential?
There are times where we've got two teams playing at night or during the day, and when there's competitions, local competitions, we need two courts to run one. So, for instance, we might have a team that's called the Open Team, we might have another team, 5+ team. For either of those to be running at the same time, we would use 4 courts. So to run each of our competitions, it's 2 courts. And then we often have times where there might be two groups of teams playing. So that's when we would use it as 4 courts.
So some of the time it's important to have 4 courts for your standard competition. And why is it important to the club that you're able to host state and national competitions? What does it add to the club to be able to do that?
Well, financially we gain a lot by having it there as well, because we're the coordinator of the event, so we're involved with provision of clubroom facilities and meals and all of those other things. It's also a very prestigious thing to have within the area. This publicity associates Prospect as the area that we've got there. It's an important thing for the quality of our game. It's a recognition of our sport, and to be played at such a high level. We invite people to come and look and gain from the skills that you can see. It's like any sport really. While you have football that comes to the area at a high level, it's a positive gain for all spectators, and those that participate in the sport get a chance to see the game being played at its highest level. And
Thanks. Any further questions? Deputy Mayor Trindwin.
Thank you, Gail, and it's great to see the club here tonight and the representation. It really shows that you guys are very passionate, and you've brought it to our attention, and been receiving everyone's letters. So it's great to see that everyone's getting involved, and we are listening. I have a question about the active living programs. What kind of things would that be?
well, I noticed that the Prospect community has a support program for an older age, and in the activity sections that we're not currently listed, but I would see that we certainly can be another provision of outdoor activity for that age group in Prospect. With the community bus, there's an availability for people to be transported to our club to play. I also noticed that there's an opportunity to have taxi vouchers if an individual is not. So where some of these people might have not been able to attend our club and come and try sessions or be part of our social days, then I see that we can certainly link into that to support that.
Definitely. So I guess like through this process, if you're able to like engage more of the community to be involved, that would be a great way to increase, your numbers. And
sorry, again, it's been finding out what's available.
Yeah. So I guess this process is what
that is another option for us.
Yeah, definitely. And also the option for like the community hire. I've attended events there as well.
Sure.
So you can. I can see you can do some more work in that space as well. So just offering the space for community use, that would be fantastic.
Part of our strategic plan is looking at the way we can be more known amongst the community in our publicities, and yes, so that we can be available more often.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Because we'll have a chance to discuss this in a later item. If there's no more questions, then I'd like to thank you, Gail, for your presentation. You're all welcome to stick around for the rest of the meeting. Might be a lock-in. We might be finishing at around 12 o'clock, so we'll be ordering some pizzas later on. Okay, so that was 8.1. Item 9 on the agenda, questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? I have Councillor Standard and then Councillor Crew.
Now I have a question for the infrastructure. Progress on the reconstruction of the Howard and Balfour intersection. What is the timeline for moving forward with that?
CEO.
Yeah, through the Mayor, I'll direct that question to Mr. Delena.
And through the Chair, Howard, sorry.
We'll rename it.
Howard and Balfour intersection obviously is a project got $200,000 budget this financial year to complete. We're in the process of taking some design option analysis, those investigations. We have a workshop planned with elected members on the 11th of February. And from memory, we'll go run through that, and that'll lead to a find an option that will bring back to council to sign off and progress to design and procurement.
Thank you. Councillor Gross.
Should foreshadow my decision motion. Joking. So I've got a question about Olive Street in terms of the reconstruction of Olive Street at the moment. Can we just get a sort of real-time update as to where that's up to and whether the defects have been repaired yet, and if not, when that might happen?
Yeah, again, through the Mayor, Mr. Delena.
Thank you, Councillor. Question through the Mayor. Olive Street has certainly been a significant effort to get in and complete the works between school finishing and school recommencing. Bluestone Curving just joined the painted building here. Those works in the top section are essentially practically complete. There are a number of defects that need to be addressed, which our staff are diligently working with the contractor to undertake, but certainly the majority of the works are complete. The bottom section from Braun through to Church Road is continuing, and that will be in a couple of weeks.
Excellent, thank you.
Any further questions without notice? If not, we'll move on to item 10 on the agenda, reports for decision. Item 10.1, Prospect Road Developments Launch Package Options, recommendations on page 5. Do I have a mover? Councillor Back, would you like to speak to the motion?
I'm going to move it to get in principle, I think it's a good idea, but I'd like to hear other thoughts.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barnett, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, Prospect Road is, to launch the package options. It's very important that we do keep what's happening along Prospect Road. It's one of our premium attractors, as we could say, for many people and business and economic purposes. So I think it's that we do need to have a package that can explain about all of the various intricacies of what can happen when we are trying to develop along Prospect Road.
Thank you, Councillor Backer. Any further discussion? Councillor Nelson.
Just an interesting one. I'm probably 50-50 with this even up until now. Love the idea. I think we need to be supporting the local businesses and getting these new venues opened. I think my concerns, which is leaving me on the fence, is the fact that we're going to have the new pub, 85 Prospect Road, open in about 3 weeks, which is going to be a full 3 months before this event. So I'm wondering how much of that effect we're going to lose. Also, how much we're going to get the other businesses involved on Prospect Road. There is some comment made about getting everyone from sort of the Harrington up until Chibo involved in these sort of events. So are we going to get everyone involved? And I guess my one question, two questions I do have. In the costings, there is an item there called venue hire. What venue would we need to hire to hold the event?
I will direct that to the CEO. He may be able to answer that himself.
Sure, through the Mayor. Look, Councillor, this is it would be using one of the venues that have recently opened, so there's an allowance for that, but I can direct it to our Senior Economic Development Officer, Mr McLean, if you've got any further comment on that one.
Yeah, through the Mayor. As you mentioned, it probably would be something like the Prospect Hotel, and that is just an allowance in there because I guess they're not open yet. They don't know how they're going to be working that venue in terms of functions and things like that. So it'll be about having discussions with them about their willingness to potentially host the launch event.
It's kind of weird that we're going to pay someone to hire an event for an event that we're hosting on their behalf, but anyway. My second question is, have we had discussions with the property owners and the business operators about getting subsequent funding from them if they're willing to put in $100, $500 each business? At the end of the day, it is an opportunity for them, it is a marketing option for them, an event for them. Have those discussions taken place?
Yeah, look,
CEO.
Through the Mayor, Councillor, the discussions have been at this stage undertaken with the landlords, not particularly with the individual business owners along the strip, in the sense that this is to come to this forum first for approval. Certainly, the landlords themselves are willing to chip in and pay their part to launch their own businesses. So this is the contribution suggested from council to circle in the remainder of the businesses to do a one-off launch. And yes, timing is everything. Not all of those businesses will open on the same day, so we're definitely anticipating around that sort of March, the end of March, early April time for this launch. By the time the majority of particularly the 11 retailers are open.
Sorry, just confirm. I think the reports say May or March. The reports
May. Yeah, we'll end in April, the earliest.
Yep.
The latest will be.
Thank you. So yeah, my thoughts are, without repeating myself, my thoughts are I support this very much to actually support these local businesses. I just have concerns regarding if one venue opens end of February, we don't have a launch till May, we may lose a lot of that. Trying to justify the actual value of the investment. So.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Councillor Green.
Thank you. I agree with a lot with what Councillor Nelson spoke about. I'm trying to understand the value for council in this. There's absolute value for the property owners, there's value for the traders, but I'm trying to see what the real value for council is. Now, there's always value in attracting people to the City of Prospect, we know that, but for an unbudgeted amount of money, which Recommendation 3 talks about an unfavourable adjustment to council's operating position in $15,000. I know we've got some savings elsewhere, but we need to just not always spend our savings. I'm just a bit concerned that I don't see the real value for us in this. I see lots of value for others. And I'll go back to this one line on page 10 of the report where it says there is a real possibility that individual businesses will invest in their own launch campaigns. So I'm just trying to understand if they're all doing their own launch campaigns and we're trying to do one over the top of that, how's that going to work? Now, we've just had a little bit of conversation, but it's probably my concern as well that, that they'll launch the pub, they'll launch the dessert place and whatever else, but we then come along a month or two later and say, let's celebrate the opening of some apartments which sold off the plan pretty quickly, so there's no real, value in attracting more people to the apartments because they're all sold. 2/3 of the tenancies in Harrington have been leased, hopefully more by then. But I just don't see the real value. So I'm just wanting someone to say something that's absolutely going to convince me to vote for it, because at the moment I think I can. And I'll probably ask on that basis, because I'm always supportive of these reports coming to us, if you could take it in parts, because I'd certainly support option point 1 in the recommendations, but I may not support the others.
Thank you, and happy to take the parts. Councillor Holland.
I actually do see some value in this. There's a lot of investment, private investment coming to Prospect Road. Multiple businesses will open up just from those two developments. Prospect Council does encourage business to come here. We do want that. We are really showing the support and actually offering something, and I think we get something back in return that is in the longer term. It's not just that one. It lets everyone know just, this is a destination, there's a lot on offer, it's growing, and I think it does give us value. It gives our residents, so in the council is our residents as well, and there is something long term to it. It's not just letting people know businesses have just opened up. I think there is. I think we should play a bit of a part. I mean, I'd probably go for the smaller $15,000 package there, but I think when they've put in millions and the whole street, it wouldn't be just those businesses benefiting. All businesses would benefit because more people would be coming to the street once they know that it is a street. We do have competition too. I think over time with O'Connell Street, we're going to have their development 88, is it? O'Connell Street coming on board, and I think we need to state our sort of presence and brand here as well, and get people to come here.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Stanley.
I would agree with some of the comments. The event, I'm not sure how that would, if we choose at one location, that would be one business that would be benefiting. So we do have two developments with multiple businesses. I'm more supportive on just marketing, so doing the marketing for all businesses and Village Heart, all the two new buildings, so focusing on that rather than having one event that would probably just be helping that one business.
Thank you. Councillor Stanley.
It's an interesting proposition. There's a couple of things I really like about it. One, I like the fact that there's some print advertising and there's some radio in there, which are traditional mainstream advertising that everyone seems to circumvent these days for social media and influencers and everything like that. And that area is becoming increasingly saturated, where the traditional mainstream areas are being ignored because they're old-fashioned. And it's very hard to figure out whether they work. But if we're one of those only groups, one of the only councils that's actually playing in that area, we have a really good opportunity to actually stand out and own the space. So I kind of like the fact that we're including older, traditional media in what we're doing. The other thing too is it's been mentioned that North Adelaide are probably going to start kicking soon, and we need to maybe do a little preemptive strike from a branding point of view. I think Tour Down Under has certainly given us a little bit of a bit of runway on that, and I don't think we can underestimate the things. Just being on TV, being out there, and people being aware of Prospect. The more that we can ride on that wave, the better we will be. And I think whether we see specific value in things like this, I think there's a branding awareness value that can't be underestimated, especially since we're going to be attacked by places like North Adelaide. You've always got Norwood, you've always got St. You've always got those areas who want to take our crown. And I think the more that, it's not a lot of money, and I think the more that we can just keep ticking away at our brand awareness, I think it's really, really important that we do it. We've got a great brand, we have a unique brand, and I think we just need to keep building on that. Not a lot of money, and it'll keep it just ticking along.
Thank you. From the chair, I think the 88 O'Connell looming threat is one of the biggest reasons why we should do this. Steve Morris would say the success of a precinct is due to holding event after event after event and bringing people here multiple times. And I think the key to the success of the event will come down to who we invite. So if we invite each other, fantastic, we can all pat each other on the back and go, aren't we great? But that's not a lot of value. But I'm sure that if it does go ahead, I'm sure the team who are planning it will think strategically about who they want to invite, and I have all the confidence if the motion does get up that the team will pull together a very good invite list of people who are influential and people who we want to come here and see what we're doing, and perhaps be at the forefront of the next round of major scale developments that might happen on Prospect Road. So that's just my little bit. Everyone's spoken, so I will now head back to Councillor De Backer to sum up.
Yeah, well, thank you everyone, and I think it's good to hear everybody's thoughts because I like Councillor Wilson was quite undecided. And I think the strength of the report is going to be optimising the amount of money. Because $15,000 we say, oh, it's not a lot of money, it is to some people and some of our community groups and things like that. So we are as careful as we can be. And the other thing to keep in mind is that I know that Harrington is the biggest development we've ever had on Prospect Road. And it's not just businesses, we've got 55 apartments, which is over 100 residents. Now, you know, that deserves a bit of a celebration and look at this. Because I went up to McGill Road a couple of days ago, and they're probably where we were maybe 6 or 7 years ago. They don't have the destination businesses, but what these two developments will do will bring destination businesses. So people will come here specifically for those businesses. So I think the investment warrants this kind of spending. But, you know, this is why I love Councillor Standen to my side here, is that I'm really interested in having the placemaking discussion. There is a workshop coming up. A bit like Plant 4, they've got the crazy cows at the front. You go, it's art and business and people and events. And I think that all has to happen together. So I see this as part of that discussion. And I don't think this is the last discussion we'll have about Prospect Road and how we make this the place to be continually, because we do have to keep it fresh. So look, I'm on balance supportive of it. Keeping in mind, 55 residents. You look at Livingston Avenue, I don't know how much the works are $600,000 for a street or something like that. We're looking at an apartment. I think it's good to have a small spend to celebrate a development and say, look, what's happening here in Prospect. So on balance, also.
Thank you for that summary. Let's put it to the vote. We are going to take it in parts. So part 1, all those in favour, against, carried unanimously. Part 2, all those in favour, against, carried unanimously. Part 3, all those in favour. Once again, all those in favour. I see a couple of hands. Is that a up or down, Councillor Lane? Okay, good. All those against, carried unanimously. Thank you for that discussion. That was a good one. I'm going to seek leave of the meeting to bring item 10.3 forward ahead of item 10.2 because I think the majority of the audience may well be here, not necessarily, but may well be here to hear that discussion. So I need a 2/3 majority to bring that motion forward. Can I have a show of hands, all those in favour of bringing that motion forward? Done and dusted. So we'll address 10.3 and then we'll circle back to 10.2 after that. So I'm just going to organise 10.2, 10.3. Item 10.3, PLP option endorsement for a community consultation. Recommendations on page 26. I'm going to seek leave to suspend meeting procedures for 45 minutes to save doing it in 15-minute increments, which I normally like doing. All those in favour of suspending meeting procedures? All those against? Should we call a division on that, or
Can.
I'd have to make everyone stand up then, and I don't want to do that. So time now is 7:43. Let's call it 7:45 till 8:30. So this is obviously it's being recorded. It's not debate. It's an open discussion. Happy to take questions, observations. I believe that there are some additional recommendations potentially being put forward for inclusion in this debate. So they are now there on your screen. So who would like to go first? Just because you go first, you can do, apart from doing a TikTok, you can do almost anything you want. Yes, questions and comments and anything you want.
Buried deep in the bowels of this report is a suggestion that the Croquet Club could be as part of a multi-function area with basketball. I don't know who to ask the question of, but and what surface would basketball be compatible with croquet?
So yeah.
I look through the mayor. If I might ask this to bring the strategic project manager to the table, given the fact that we kind of suspended Khadij's to perhaps answer some of those specific detailed questions as we go through. And Stacey Mills is the Strategic Project Manager for PLP, so I may be able to answer that question directly, and maybe a few others as we go through. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep. So do I need to do this through the Mayor every time now? Yep. So I think the option that you're referring to is when there's an inclusion of one multi-purpose or croquet court in option 3, which is one of the 3 proposed options. That would be an either or, and it would be subject to the engagement process that's proposed to follow this decision, and council's ultimate decision on what you would prefer to see with that single court.
So can I, to clarify, it wouldn't actually be a multi-purpose, it'd be a single purpose, but after discussion.
It would be a multi-purpose, either excluding croquet or croquet only, with no multi-purpose outdoor court. Yeah. In option 3 only.
So to clarify, there is no multi-purpose option where croquet could be used in conjunction with any other sport.
We, per the previous question that was asked to Gail, we also had a look at the ability to be able to co-locate with other activities. Bowls is really the main one that could be potential, but there's a number of different maintenance and ongoing requirements that would require significant further negotiation because of the amount of maintenance and damage that could potentially occur to both clubs. So to answer your question, not really.
Anything else, Councillor Stanton?
No, question-wise.
Comments, observations? Do you want to kick off?
No, I might wait till the end.
You can speak twice, probably. You've got 45 minutes.
See what happens.
Okay, just trying to build up a little bit of excitement here.
Yeah.
Who else is jumping out of their seats to kick off a conversation?
I will.
Councillor
Because I mean, a lot to do with the concept plans and the croquet club is whether we have another sort of option 3A. There's probably that looks more at the option with the croquet retaining either 3 or 4 courts, and what are the other items then, because it boils down to the fact whether we want to have national or possibly international or state croquet here or not. If you take away 2 of the courts, that means you're already making a decision that you don't want that, all right? So I think we need to keep options open about having, it's quite prestigious, whatever the sport or activity is about, you know, having state and national provision. And I mean, people can, but if people don't realise that there's no other option other than just having the 1 court or the 2 court for the croquet club, except for obviously all the supporters of croquet that will respond. Yes, so, and the other thing is about the croquet club rooms, and was probably due some time for upgrade. So the croquet club has sort of, you know, indicated that they might be willing to co-share. Perhaps it really just depends on who is the co-sharing sort of with. Again, it doesn't matter, we put out the 3 options, people can respond and lobby for, you know, one or the other. Yeah, I'm just concerned that they, you know, there doesn't seem to be, you know, if it's just too cut and dried, it doesn't seem to say, right, well, if, you know, you can have the 3 courts, well, we can do this, or 4 courts, we can do this, and we can have other things. Unless you read it all through very carefully and you're particularly passionate about that side of things. So that's that. The other thing is just generally throughout this and other reports, and particularly this, there just seems to be quite a confusion when whoever are writing the reports about things about the heritage, and there are quite incorrect terminology used in some of them if you're looking at it from a history lens. So, you know, in some parts it makes it clear that the about what's local class heritage and what's state heritage, and others it gets a bit confused. So I just would like to have a somebody proofread and go through that and make it clearer. There's confusion with the local heritage listed oval memorial grandstand, that's its proper name. And then there's also references to the Marble Wall Memorial. I think that just whoever's thought, well, you know, it's mainly made of marble, so we'll refer to it as that. Its correct name, heritage-wise, and in the records, is it's the Prospect Memorial. It was erected in 1988. It was constructed from materials recycled from the previous memorial and drinking fountain to King George III, unveiled in 1937. And so it goes on to describe it. And part of it has the four pillars that commemorate the major conflicts in which Australia has participated up until the end of the Vietnam War. So, you know, I just like that we go through and we make it clear about what the terminology is. And it refers to two gateways. They're not actually gateways. They may look like it because one of them is at the entrance of Flora Terrace to near the memorial playground. But they're called memorial arches, and that's how they're described in Australia's any research that's done about memorials. In 1936, the Memorial Gardens opened and the World War I Memorial Arch was unveiled, so that's the one off Flora Terrace. And then the other one further down to the Prospect Oval end of Menzies Crescent is the World War II Memorial Arch. So I know I'm being pedantic about it, but, you know, I just like every time some of our people interested in history and knowledgeable about that, and they see all that and they think, well, council doesn't know what they're talking about, etc. You know, so that's why I'm just being a bit pedantic here and now, so we can get it right before it goes out. Pardon me. I have queried about the cricket practice net and its positioning, so we've got some options there in the options presented. But I would like to know, what's the use of the cricket practice decks? I know they're used in cricket season, but what use are they outside of that? Who else can use them? Or are they just going to be there, you know, not being used until cricket uses them? So if somebody could answer that.
So, yeah, go through the Mayor. I suppose, first of all, taking a point, re-heritage, I'm certainly acknowledging that we have got a little bit more work to do on the detail around the naming conventions and the historical context. So that point will be noted for future refinement and description. Thank you for that. On the second point of the cricket nets, usually what happens in the professional cricket world is that the grass and the turf wickets recover over winter, so they typically are not used, especially the batting end, and they have to be obviously north-south. Batting end of those wickets particularly has to recover. One of the options has a on using part of the oval for the run-up and the bowls end of the wickets, if you see. That is a suggested alternative and option. It is not an ideal option for Tier 2 cricket. It will require more dedicated space, as we say, for recovery of turf and the various grass treatments that are required. It's more a trying to just, you know, present options for efficiency of space, and yet very clearly that's a suboptimal option. And through the Mayor, Stacey, do you have anything else to add to the particular cricket comments?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, ideally it was good to include a couple of different options just based on the feedback that we got from the community around having accessible nets close to where people were able to park and access. Hence why we put one location up on the northern edge. The Prospect Cricket Club themselves actually quite like that as an option, but noting that that does not appeal to a tier 2 kind of larger cricket outcome. So that's why we proposed an alternative location in the kind of southwestern corner as well, to seek feedback on both options from users and spectators and the like.
Yeah, I just note that it's sort of taking up pivotal space in the concepts and at the expense of, say, the Croquet Club and things like that. So I did, in my reading, researching, note that the cricket practice nets can also be used like for if somebody like baseball practice, you know, and others obviously that have bat and sort of ball or softball. So I guess I'm just trying to drive a bit more bang for the buck and to, you know, see if that's some sort of possibility, because we don't really know what other sports we're going to get there, do we? And if we just have the cricket nets dedicated completely to cricket and nobody else can use them, yeah. So anyway, what else was there? So, yeah, and I think we'll most probably be having more of a discussion about the optional pedestrian crossing to partially line Kinto Avenue to line with Ellen Street, etc. Noting that we've always had some sort of discussion about the main road planning precinct going back some years, and that so, and there has been talk previously, not, you know, before even PLP came onto the horizon, that the Kinto Avenue and known as pedestrian crossing was mainly in the wrong place, you know. So, at any rate, I think we'll be having further discussion about that. So I think I've had been enough time, and others to comment.
Thank you. Councillor Becker.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Pick up on heritage. So I'm just going to ask a few concise questions about the report. Who was the author of the report? Because it says for the city of Prospect.
Yeah.
Look, our team compiled the front report. The backing master plan detailed technical report was from our lead consultant, Holmesdale.
Are they in the room tonight? Is there a decision why they weren't invited to the meeting?
Through the Mayor, the reason why one of the key authors of that report has been in hospital with a heart condition, so I have Stacey's very comfortable on the detailed content, and myself for any questions that could be asked on that.
So I'm sorry to hear that. Given there is a heritage layer on the whole precinct, was a heritage expert engaged on this report?
Through the Mayor, again, the heritage expert that has been used is Holmesdale, who have a degree of heritage understanding with their expertise over 30 years in planning similar precincts. So commentary was derived through their knowledge of the overlays and so on. So commentaries were from Holmesdale were in this space without specifically engaging a heritage architect as yet. However, in the roadmap, that obviously happens at a certain point.
Through the Mayor, it's possible to ask a question on planning management. I know the state listed heritage air raid shelter is listed recently. Has there been a heritage review by the City of Prospect subsequent to that, after that's been listed?
Acting CEO.
Yeah, I'll defer to the Manager of Development Services to offer an answer on that particular matter. The Councillor?
I might, through the Chair, quickly clarify in terms of a fresh heritage survey, do you mean?
Yes.
Sorry?
Uh-huh.
So that has been budgeted for this financial year, and we're in a procurement phase right now of engaging a heritage expert to support us in doing that review.
So personally, I think as we're in discussion, the cart has come before the horse, because we're making assumptions that we can build these things on that location. And I just actually touched base with the president of Croquet Club before, because years ago I took a picture of this plan, which is actually a plan by Charles Compton Reid, who some may or may not be aware is the father of garden cities in South Australia. So he's done some work and there were some original plans, and I believe the Croquet Club, and I think even our own collection has some. And I was scrambling for this today, because same thing like Councillor Barnett, there's a lot of information missing. So I think though we're having these great conversations with partners, I don't want to slow down the process, but I think we're assuming that we can do these things. And because we're just about to have a heritage review of that space, I think maybe we've got it the wrong way around. So I'm actually going to put up an option B. It's just part of the discussion. It's not saying we can't discuss the highbrow ones. I don't know if there's an opportunity to bring that up on the screen and I can hand these round, or is that something we do in debate, or?
I don't know whether we've got them readily accessible, that's all.
Share, hand them round? Okay, so this is, I think, what Councillor Barnett was asking about earlier. So this was, and this is for elected members. I can't show it on the screen, but and this shows not to leave the Croquet Club as is, and a more modest. Like I said, it's just an option, so it's still going to go out to the other options. And I think until we get a new heritage survey, and we haven't actually had a heritage review. One more question, maybe just through the chair to the CEO, and we have to be very careful here, because obviously we've heard things in confidence that we can't say in a public area. What's the need to have it in that southwest corner? There's like an existing footprint of buildings where the RSL Club is. What is the desire that can be expressed in the public realm, and why the bulk needs to be in that southwest corner?
Acting CEO.
Through the Mayor. Look, the multi-use facility has been tested to accommodate a dual basketball court for various sports, including volleyball and pickleball and these other sports. But also in the southwest corner, look, the options have got several sizes of this, but fundamentally it accommodates Tier 2 cricket, because the broadcasting for Tier 2 cricket, if we decide to go down that way and we are eager for women's Big Bash and so on to be broadcast for us to sort of have a facility that organisations like SACA are keen for us to be able to lift this profile. For broadcasting, you need to look down the pitch, the cameras and so on. The coaching team look down the pitch. So the southwestern corner for the bulk and scale of that building, from an architectural design perspective, suited the southwest corner for all of those reasons, for spectator viewing, for cricket broadcasting and coaching, but also for the purposes of scale, for the cricket rooms to be renewed there, and RSL potentially to be renewed there as well in the same building, and potentially if Croquet have 1, 2, 3 courts, for their club rooms to also be housed in the same sort of facility. So from a design perspective, that is fundamentally why that southwestern corner architecturally fitted those particular uses into it.
Just one more suggestion as a compromise, you could actually put the commentary box and the TV on top of like a cafeteria like the bar is now, and include toilets as a smaller entity, and then push the bigger development forward further in the northwest where the existing bulk is. That's just a suggestion, and I'll leave it there for other space.
Thank you. Councillor Groot.
Thank you, Mayor. there's lots to like in this, of course. There's a few bits that trouble me, and some of them have already been mentioned, so I'll try not to repeat them. Just a couple of comments on the question. I think the new recommendation 2A makes a lot of sense. So thank you for putting that in. I think we picked up a sort of view of some of the elected members, certainly myself on that. So I think having that particular commentary as part of the ITP makes a lot more sense. So thank you for doing that. I had a question here. Can someone remind me of what 1B is, which is now recommendation 3? But is that what Councillor Backer has just handed out? Is that okay? So that's not in the okay. Thank you. Thank you. So I'll accept that as what that is. Look, I still subscribe to a view that we've got neighbours along Kintore, and I'm not supportive of having bulkhead on the back fence. I said that every time I've had an opportunity to speak to it, and I maintain that, so that's a comment. I don't think we're big enough to be all things to all people in Prospect either, so that's my other thinking around this. But we also aren't big enough to not consider multiple use on all of our sites. So I was just thinking through that people can now have a knee reconstruction in a hospital, and 1,000 kilometres away the doctor is actually doing the surgery by remote control. So incredible, technological advances in terms of medicine. We should be able to find a way to have croquet and other sports play in the same field. I don't think it's impossible. So I think we need to do that. There was a lot of emotion with croquet. We can see that tonight. We can see that in the advocacy that we've had. And I don't agree with I don't disagree with anything that I've heard from croquet either. So I'm supportive of making sure we find a way through that supports croquet. And I totally agree with Councillor Backer in terms of architectural placement of what we put on that site. We've got a big site. And if we're talking about generational change, we need to draw a breath and make sure we get that right. And that was probably my last comment I was going to make. Our timeline for this is our timeline. We're not pressured for anyone else. We've got a lease on the property that's paying the rent or paying the mortgage payments on the site. So we're all excited about it. We want to get something happening, and I'm 100% supportive of that. But I think we should also not be afraid to draw breath and say, hang on, let's make sure we get it right. Because I'd rather be sitting here in 5 years' time, or probably not here, but sitting in the City of Prospect in 5 years' time saying, wow, that's a great outcome because we took that extra 6 months to go through that and actually work it through. So I'll say that in formal debate as well, so it's a bit more formal than just in discussion. But I just keep coming back to our timeline is our timeline. It's arbitrary. We want to make this a 6-year project or a 10-year project. We can. We don't want to, of course, but I think we need to make sure we get it right. And I don't feel we've quite got some of that right. So for me, it's the issue about how do we support croquet in a really positive way. And I think having the displacement management principles are good, and we should have those. We probably, in hindsight, should have had those at the beginning of the process because it feels like we're now writing them for a specific purpose as opposed to an overall project purpose. My last comment is just point 5. I get point 5, I understand what that's referring to. I think from a government's perspective, if someone reads that in 2 years' time, they have no idea what that means. And I'm just a bit concerned about supporting that when it's so vague, but I understand it has to be. So that's just, that's all.
Councillor Stanton.
I'll have a shot. Very much of Councillor Gruder said, in fact, we need to take a breath. Somehow this pre-discussion before, out of session discussions like the workshop that we probably should have next week, I feel we're a workshop away from actually having something that I would be comfortable putting out to the public. Very bluntly, I see no compelling reason on any of the options why we need to displace the croquet club. The things that are being put there are open space, the basketball courts. I can count on no hands how many emails I've had and how many deputations I've had from Basketball SA and Pickleball SA. Neither of these groups have come to me and deputised and said, we want basketball courts, we need them, we absolutely need them on this property. The only people that have come and said we need to be here are the croquet club. So in the absence of the crickets over here not from cricket, curiously enough, from basketball and pickleball, I don't understand why we're displacing a vibrant club with maybe we should put this here. And the two things we're putting there seem to be open space and other courts. These are things that could be, they're not built form, these are things that could actually be put there later. So in theory, if we decided to keep all 4 courts, and then later on the croquet club, let's say in 10 years' time, the membership declines and it goes down and they say, we really don't need all 4 courts. we could just reduce it down to 2 and then do the things. At the moment, we're displacing a vibrant club that wants to be there with some, maybe we should have them there. And I don't see the need for that. It could be staged. I don't think we need to just go smashing with a wrecking ball and taking out a vibrant club. So that's my opinion. That's my opinion. I think that we probably should really just do another workshop and find another option where we actually keep the courts, and maybe there's room to keep one basketball court and keep all 4 courts. That's for someone to put on a piece of paper. The traffic issues are documented. I don't understand why there's traffic options in there. The Ellen Street is not a good east-west connector. It's about 14 foot wide. Kintore has no branches off it, so it would just be not a very good east-west connector. I know we're getting rid of that, but I also have noticed on all the options there is there's a pedestrian crossing at Burwood. And I think if we're going to keep this for the ITP and take it on, I think we still need to take that out because it becomes baked in. As soon as we send that to public consultation, it becomes baked in. On the subject of public consultation, I've had a few people say to me, look, this is going out to public consultation. People will pick it apart. Let them pull it apart. If we're sending stuff out to public consultation, I want our residents to believe that what we're sending out is what we believe is our best work. We want to be able to say, yes, this is what you guys need. Don't pick it apart. This is something that we believe in and something that you should believe that we believe in. And at the moment, I really can't endorse what is on the paper at the moment. And that will follow through to formal session.
I might just my 2 cents worth, and then we haven't heard from Councillor Nelson, Deputy Mayor, and also Councillor Hollop. So I disagree with I disagree with some of what you said then, Councillor Standard, but I disagree with the last thing you said. We don't ever go out to public consultation saying, you know what, we've nailed this, and we just want you guys to wrap your arms about it and give it a hug and put a bow around it and tick it. We go out to public consultation at the point in time at which we've given this, and I'll maybe quote you, a fair whack, and we've had a crack at it, and now it's time for other people to contribute to it. So I don't think that we should be aiming to go out to public consultation when we think we have finished our work. We've finished our work once we go through this next round of consultation, and then we undertake the 2 workshops that are planned to happen in April and May to take into account the public consultation. And then we're nearly finished our work, and then it goes to a meeting in June when we endorse the master plan. So I disagree with that last point that you made. I'm concerned about including additional scenarios because we may all want to have our own personal scenario included in here. We might end up with 10 scenarios that we go out to public consultation with, and I don't think that serves anybody very well. So I'm concerned about endorsing this inclusion. I do think we should have an option that we go out with that leaves the croquet club as it is. I don't like this one that's been put forward. I think part 3 there will become dead land, no one will ever use it, and we'll wonder why we did it. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen an option where there is no multi-facility. But just to remind everybody, public consultation, we had the most successful round of public consultation when we did this the last time that we've ever had. We were overwhelmed by how much contribution we had. I would expect that the team has developed and will deliver another outstanding example of public consultation, and I expect to get a similar amount of feedback. And so that, to me, that's the pivotal point. When that comes back and we can see what the public think of, you know, we've moved from words to blobs on a page to more defined blobs on a page, this is the right time for it to go to the public. And when it comes back, we can add our own thoughts, we can add in everything that's come to us directly, we can look at the public consultation results, then we have 2 workshops still before we go to decision-making process. So we're a long way away. So I have no concerns myself with this going out to public consultation. The only concern I noted was that I would have liked to have seen an option which didn't include a multi-sport facility. So I don't know how we deal with that. I don't want to add a fifth option to it, and as I said, I'm a little concerned about adding a fourth one as well. So they're the points that I wanted to make. So Councillor Hollett, and then I'm sure Councillor Nelson and Deputy Mayor would like to also have their say.
I've taken in what everyone has said here. I think it's, you know, agree with a lot of the ideas, but we do need to sort of, do need to, I agree with you that we need to actually now sort of take so much to the public and get their feedback, because we, you know, I'm seeing there's 1B here. You've just mentioned what you'd like to put down. I could do a D or an E, and we could keep going. So I think it is important that we get on with the public consultation and see what we find there, and then have those 2 workshops. And I mean, I think it's just a way we progress, because we could end up with a whole lot of different ideas. We've seen that at a previous workshop. We really need to take some kind of direction and go forward. So pretty much what you said, yeah. So I don't think I could go for another scenario.
If someone was inclined to ask me to take it in parts, I would be agreeable to that, but I haven't been asked that yet, so at this stage we aren't. So we have Councillor Nelson, would you like to go next, and then Deputy Mayor?
First, I'd like to say, can we take it in parts?
Great idea.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, look, some of the points you brought up, Matt, was spot on. I think I go back and I made sure 12 months ago that I maintained myself, as a lot of elected members did, get really involved in that community feedback, the consultation at first. A lot of us were at the supermarkets and Bunnings and everything else actually talking to the residents. And I think we've got to remember that we had over 1,000 responses. We had a combination of written responses and verbal responses and docs on the board and everything else. There was over 1,000 responses. We're talking about 8 people, 9 people sitting in a room. We've all obviously got our own opinions as well. Now, we've had our chance to talk about in our workshops. We've been, Councillor Group and I, members of the Community Reference Group. We've got members of the Facility Users Group. So this isn't just the executives that have come along and said, well, let's try these 3 things. This is taken from over 1,000 residents, the feedback. This is taken from facility users. This is taken from the Community Reference Group. This is taken from a number of people. And I was actually quite chuffed when I was reading the report on the weekend and comparing the options that have been put forward with the feedback of previous workshops. And I probably spent hours comparing, but I think the executives done a really good job on pulling all the information out and putting these 3 things on paper. They did a great job of getting all the feedback, compiling the whole lot. This is not what I want. I have my own plans. This is not what the Mayor wants. You have your own plans. But this is what the vast majority of the community wants. This is gathering the feedback of what they want. And just like the Mayor just mentioned, I think this is the time to go back to the community and say, right, we've listened to you. This is what you've told us you want. How did we do? And wait for that feedback. We've got a lot of people talking about, step 434. We're at step 12. We're a long way away from actually making decisions. We're a long way away from displacing anyone or overbuilding or anything. There's a long way to go. Let's put this first feedback back from the community, all the references that we've got, and see how we're doing. So I think I'm the first one to say I think you guys did a great job, John, you and your team, of compiling thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of paper of the feedback and getting into these 3 options, which is what the vast majority of our residents, our ratepayers, the people who are paying for these spaces, what they want. So we'll explore that.
Thank you. Last but not least, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'd like to add on from what Councillor Nelson said as well, and I do see that. I think I've enjoyed listening to everyone's discussion, and things that some people don't like, but I don't think anyone has highlighted, besides Councillor Nelson, that we have listened to the feedback from the previous consultation. We are retaining the tennis courts, so that we don't have to relocate them. And obviously, we're really listening to the Croquet Club and not displacing them, not moving them. And we still have 2 more workshops to go and public consultation. So there's still time for us to revise these 3 scenarios. This is not the final. So yeah, I'd commend the staff for putting this together, and we still have opportunities to work on these scenarios and change it as we listen to the feedback that comes back to us.
Thank you. We do find ourselves with 11 minutes to go. We don't have to use them if we don't want to. Oh, Councillor Bunny, you spoke for about an hour and a half before. Just not sure that I might cap it at a couple of points if you don't mind.
This is a question.
Yeah.
Throughout the report and research, we're about being underserviced in basketball and and some others. So why wouldn't we be hearing from somebody from basketball, possibly netball, to come and speak to us, just like the Croquet Club has? It clears up quite a lot of perhaps misconceptions or opens up to opportunities. So I would like to
Can I pick up on your question and add to it, if you don't mind? Acting CEO, you've been in discussions with Basketball SA. Is there a procedural step that we're going through that would prevent any broader discussion around the potential, and that's why there hasn't been a lot of noise around that? Or is it just that they haven't taken up the opportunity to lobby?
Yeah, through the Mayor, I think it's really, again, about a lot of moving parts in this project. Councillor Nelson spoke about that. There are so many moving parts. So the approach to this, we've wanted to be as honest, transparent, and attach ourselves to one of the principles that you asked us to consider, which was evidence-based decisions. So what we've done is we've taken a very high-level top-down approach. The team, Stacey and the team, have dug into a number of sports research reports in terms of supply and demand. So we're using data at a high level across all sports. So we haven't decided in our heads, let's look at basketball, or let's look at croquet, or we just used all the research and the demand of those sports by participation rates, by age. So we've done a lot of top-down research. We're also listening from a bottom-up perspective as well. That's why we assembled FUG, the Facilities Users Group, so we could have the Croquet Club speak to us individually and get in front of us and talk about their needs and their wants and their plans, and we heard a great pitch tonight. So we have done it, but what we haven't done is gone away and necessarily engaged individually, although that is not the case. We have had some sports come to us specifically that are not represented at the moment, and we are dealing with them, if you like, slowly, because we're at a phase at the moment where we are at step 12 of a long process, and we want everybody to have a very measured, sensible, consistent approach to developing and massaging this as we go through. But timing is of the essence for us to keep moving on this, so that we can get to that point where we start speaking to individual clubs, and once we know that you as members do want what you want based on the phase 2 consultation results, we're not going to jump ahead of those results. We want to stay consistent to the process, which is evidence-based decisions, listen to the community, and then send this back to you for decision. So whilst we might be eager, Stacey might have a different club or a different sport that I'm interested in, etc. We're not doing like that. We want to be able to look at this in 3-4 years' time and say, this was the best process you could possibly take, and we're already having metro councils come to us and say, what is your model? We want to follow that. We've got people like the Office of Rec and Sport talking to us and saying, your public consultation process is an exemplar, can we look at it? So we really want to stay true to the roadmap, stay true to the process that you signed off and authorised us to follow. Hence, that's been the data-based approach to this.
Yeah, just my final word. So that means that any of these groups that are mentioned in the report that we put out for consultation, they have an opportunity to put in comments through the process.
Got time for a couple of last words if anybody is keen and they haven't quite made their points here. Anyone from the east side, all good? Not good?
No, yeah.
You got some time?
No, that's right, I'll leave it for the session.
Okay. I can't wait. All right, well, if there's no further discussion, then I will bring this back into formal session. So there were no B's and C's added there. So we can remove those two. So we have the recommendations that we're going to vote on the screen. I'm just looking at how it's structured. So we've got 1, we've got 2 A. There's no 2B, so can we just tidy that up a little? Maybe just get rid of the A.
Can I ask a very brief question on that?
Yeah, go for it.
The removing of signalised intersections, does that include the ones, the pedestrian T-junction on Burwood that is included in the visualised options that we have, or is it only the Ellen Kintore one? Or is all signalised options within the report?
Well, it specifically says signalised intersection on page 131 as the preferred east-west connectivity mechanism. So I suspect it just refers to the Ellen Kintore one.
The ones in the
Councillor Backer might be able to, I think, did you put that forward, Councillor Backer, that amendment? Part 2, the removal of the reference to the. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was yours?
Yeah. I probably, my intent of the email sent through was the fact that I think all the consultation on the signalised intersections, there was 2 options, should be moved through to the ITP. I think that's where it more naturally sits.
Yeah, that's what that says. Further work on the LDN and the ITP project.
It might need a slight alteration of the visuals that you've got going out for consultation.
Council notes that optimum east-west main thread connectivity will be tested in conjunction with further work and refinement of PLP and the ITP project. Is that?
Yeah, the page 131 is specific probably to Kintore and Ellen, but I notice on the options A, B, and C, or 1, 2, 3, whatever shows signalisation at Burwood, which probably really should be consultation.
Okay, so you'd like the reference to on page 131 removed, and then it would need to read subject to council removing reference to and get rid of A after 2 on the second line, and then add an S to signalise intersections as the preferred east-west connectivity mechanisms as well. So we'll chuck an S on there as part of option 3. For how's that read, Councillor Stanton? Are you okay with that?
Yes.
We'll put it in practice.
Yes.
All right. So that's what we're looking at voting on. So we're back in a formal session. We are going to take it in parts, but I am looking for a mover in the first instance. Saw Councillor Nelson's hand go up first of all, and you can be the seconder.
So without repeating what was mentioned, without repeating too much what was mentioned about the section.
That's better.
It's a bit tough, yes. Just commending the executives for putting these things together. There was a lot of information taken from our consultation. We've all spoken to a number of residents, a number of user groups, a number of meetings, a number of committees, a number of workshops. So to gather this information down to what's our first 3 options, and I say first 3 options because we are in the very early stages of this process. There could be another 3 that come out in 6 months' time once we go through this and get further community feedback. So I think what the executives put together for this first 3 options is exceptional. You've done very well to gather all of that exhaustive information, and I think to test this with the community is going to be an interesting stage. I look forward to getting results back in April.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Nguyen.
Yeah, I'd like to second, and following on from what Councillor Nelson has said, I'm happy with the 3 proposed scenarios. We still have the opportunity to go out for public consultation for us to gather information from our consensus groups and add to it. So there will still be time for us to workshop these scenarios and improve it to, to the final ones. So we've still got 2 more sessions before that happens. So I'm happy for these to go out and for the consultation to continue. So that will be scheduled.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any points that haven't thus been raised? Councillor De Backer and then Councillor Grote.
Look, we all have different opinions, and that's fine. But I think, just by way of a process, I think certainly, I sat on the council assessment panel for 4 or 5 years for my sins, and one of the things we do look at is zoning, and it's not local heritage listing by accident. It's local heritage listing because our community wanted it that way. Our strategic plan marks, community and heritage. But I've always been of the belief that development and heritage are not mutually exclusive. You just have to get a really good architect and a really good heritage expert on board up front, not at the end, because it doesn't work. And I think certainly the cricket club and the football club and the croquet club have been here for a long time. So there's heritage in the whole area, not just clubs. And also, we're celebrating 30 years of our Twilight concerts. So it was actually established, I've got the newspaper, 1898 as a recreation ground. So recreation grounds are really important as part of the Garden City concept. So they were building lots of houses in Prospect, but everyone had to play on the wheat fields. So council at the time put aside money specifically for a recreation ground for athletic sports and recreation. So I guess that the concern I had is we've got a recreation ground and there's a lot more greening and trees on the original ground and tree planting, and that's what I heard loud and clear and was evidenced in the feedback. People wanted greenery in space, but they also want the council to co-fund it. So there is a push and pull, and I think I'd really encourage elected members to slow down the process where we can, because we have to believe in this. And I don't want to have egg on our face to say, oh, actually, now we've done a heritage survey, we can't do that anyway. So can we just have a think about the process in which we do that? I'm nervous about the current concepts going out because it doesn't consider that. I'd really like members to support number 3. This has been consulted with the Facilities Users Group and the reference group. So people have seen this is no surprise. It might float to the bottom because it doesn't give enough funding. So for me, it just gives peace of mind that we've actually considered opinions, and it may come back. Yes, ticks the heritage box. Yes, we can do that. We've got the right architect. It's in keeping. But I haven't really seen that in this report. That's why I'm really nervous. So interested to hear other people's views.
Thank you. We had Councillor Grote and then Councillor Barnett and then Councillor Sanders.
Thank you, Mayor. This is what makes the Central Ward the best ward, isn't it? The robust debates and then the great conversations. Look, this is a really great process, and I think Acting CEO's point before, transparency is really important, and hence it makes these things really difficult at times. And I think that's something that we should celebrate, that we can have these difficult conversations because we are being led by a transparent process. I think that's a really important thing to note as well. Of course, this is the easy meeting. The hard meeting is in June, so this is actually the easy meeting. So we probably should keep that in the back of our minds as well. So for me, in terms of what I want out of this, and the best way I could describe it as I was kind of typing ways I'm hearing people talk, is the multifunctional facility. I think it's a great idea. And in fact, as late as this morning at 10 o'clock, I was meeting with a resident who said it'd be great to have basketball in the City of Prospect because I have to travel to so-and-so with my kids to go to basketball. So I think there is that demand out there, but it's easy to have conversations with groups who are part of our community now than it is necessary for a myriad of groups who might want to be part of it. But the multifunctional facility, I think is really good. I am supportive of it. I just think the location's wrong. To Councillor Beckett's point, I think it could be elsewhere. I've expressed this view before. It doesn't have to be where the Croquet Club is. I'm very keen to make sure we maintain the Croquet Club with 3 courts. I've heard twice now that 3 is doable, and I think we should try and work to that end. Again, I don't think it has to be in the same spot as it is now. If there's another location in Memorial Gardens for it to go, I'm very supportive of maintaining croquet with those 3 courts. Traffic issues in their entirety need to go to ITP. That's the vehicle we've endorsed to look at traffic, and I agree with Councillor Standen on that one. We have to be really sensitive to our Kintore Avenue residents. I put myself in their shoes from time to time and think, what would happen if I had a 4-storey, 3-storey property within the rules, within the guidelines, but sitting off my back fence? And I think we need to be really aware of that, and so we need to be very sensitive to that. We've seen some really good examples about how we can make that work, and I think we should explore those. And I think to Councillor De Backer's point also, the heritage issues. I hadn't really considered that until tonight. I think it's a really good point. And I just wonder whether it would be possible for that to be taken on notice by staff, or to give us some advice about that and how that fits into this process, and whether even, I don't know, if we need a recommendation 6 to allow any sort of administrative changes, but whether it needs to be acknowledged in the material going out to say, hey, there's also this issue, we're aware of it, we're not ignoring it, and just be aware that we're aware of it. The balance for me is going out with some information that we can rightfully defend as an elected member group, but also getting the community's view, whether it's we like it or we don't like it. And this is where I'm struggling a little bit. Am I supportive enough of what's in front of me to go out to the community and say, hey, comment on this? Or is there enough in it that makes me feel a bit nervous? I think we need to draw breath and take that bit more time to do it. That's, again, looking for other elected members to convince me to that tonight. We need to be clear, I think, when this does go out to community, whether it's tonight or in the future, that the concepts go out with no preferred concepts, but they are just that, they're just concepts. And I think recommendation 2 goes some way of supporting that approach. It endorses the master plan options to advance to phase 2 of community engagement. So we're endorsing some options, but we're not saying that they are the right, they're going to be the exact ones we go with. Now, how you nuance that is really, really tricky, but I don't think we will ever get to the point where we're sitting here saying we are 100% happy with what's going out for community consultation, and we should go out because we're happy with that. And if we are at that point, then we shouldn't be going for community consultation when we've already made up our mind. So that's the balancing act, I think, to Mark's point. We should go up with something that we don't necessarily agree with because we want to get feedback on it. And we're not stuck with those 3 options. We could be stuck with other options. If we go out with the perfect option, then it kind of makes a mockery of the consultation, I think. I said it before, I'll say it again. Timeline is our timeline. I don't think we should be afraid to draw breath and take more time if we need to. We've given administration a very clear timeline to work to, but that's our timeline. We can change that. We're not being kicked out of a facility. We're not having to, to change anything. Everything is okay at the moment while I go through this process. So we should take that time if we need to, and that might not be tonight, but it might be in the future before we get to that June meeting. And finally, I won't support 5 because I just don't feel comfortable that that is a good exemplar of good governance. I think if we need to approve the CEO to do something and it's confidential, we should do it in confidence. And I feel uncomfortable doing it tonight because if I asked anyone in the gallery tonight what that means, they would have no idea. And we pride ourselves on that transparency. We pride ourselves on papers being made available to the public to scrutinise before we get to this point. And I don't think that supports that particular notion. So that's a philosophical point of view. Not that I don't agree with the recommendation. I 100% do. But I just don't think that is for tonight. I think that should have been done in confidence at another time, either tonight or at another meeting of council. So look, I'm really on the edge with this. I'm happy for it to go out at one level, but at the same time, I'm really concerned about us sending a message which might not be the message we want to necessarily send. So I look forward to hearing the other elected members' final views on it before we vote. And thank you for taking your parts.
So I had Councillor Barnett.
Yes.
Have you spoken yet? I'll take Councillor Barnett first of all, and then I'll...
Yes, it's picking up on 2, and at the end of that, I would like to, and I can regard it just to the appropriate wording, at the end, last sentence on section 2, I'd like to add about updating mentions about heritage aspects and a future proposed heritage review. So I just don't want those things to be sort of forgotten.
So you're proposing a variation to motion 2? Because I don't
No,
see
it's
it
just adding on, well,
there's a variation.
it's a variation adding on to
Well, it may even be an amendment.
final
but we'll-
sentence of it. Well, it's a variation. I'm not proposing by amending things to make it any different. It's just,
Well, it depends on what you're going to say as to whether it's substantially new information. So let's have a look at the wording and then we'll...
yes. Well, it's just picking up on what some councillor Tobacco and I mentioned before, and what we now know about the forthcoming heritage review, just so that people will know that we've still got work to do.
And there was a second part, I think, to your...
Well, it's just about making sure that in what goes out to, as part of the concepts and out to the consultation, that prior to that we actually update the language to reflect the correct heritage terminology.
So you're happy with what's on the screen, Councillor Bennett?
Yes, and I don't know whether we also need to include about a future proposed heritage review.
Just for the
I
purposes
need
of
some guidance on that.
For the purposes of readability, could we break 2 down into 2A, 2B, and 2C? Because there's at least 3 different points there.
It's just going on about from council notes.
Oh no, I'm happy to do that, but I just think...
and this is then following on. Council also notes, blah blah, what I've just said.
Can you convert blah blah to
that council
something
notes?
That we can... The council notes...
Not there, just follow on at the end after ITP project.
She's doing A, B, C, and D.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks, Ben. Now, there's the next part here that Councillor Barnett is coming up with wording for. So far you've got council notes that...
So we're endorsing those about subject to council blah 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 blah, and subject to council or whoever's doing it, I don't know, updating the language, and part C, subject to council noting that there is a proposed heritage review. That will also need to be considered as part of this proposal.
So first of all, we just need to get rid of subject to at the start of B and C. So yeah, that can come out from both B and C. Get some caps in there, space fixed. So council noting that there is is there a proposed heritage review?
So I think you need to subject to and have council up there, colon, and then A, removing, updating and noting, and just get rid of council at A. Just remove council, and then remove council at C.
So if there is a proposed heritage review, why are we saying that it will need to be considered? Are you saying the outcomes of which will need to be considered?
Well, that's where I might just need a bit of assistance, because we seem to know it's happening, but...
Okay, so there is a proposed heritage review. So why don't we say subject to council noting that the outcome of the heritage review will need to be considered as part of the overall planning, design. Councillor back, have you got any words you want to? Got nothing. Right.
Outcome of a future, isn't it? Parenting. That's what's proposed. It gets knocked out of the budget process.
Right, so if you're happy with that, I'll seek the mover and second to give me a yes or a no to incorporate those 2 points. So I've got yeses, thank you. All right, so if that's all from Councillor Barnett, we had a question from Councillor DeBack.
It's just a question by way of process in regards to the options as far as you can vote for it. We could leave it on the table, we could vote it down. What are the options for us, and what does that mean as buying more time? Preference in case of the question. Are you happy with what?
So your question is what happens if in particular... So just to clarify your question, you're asking if, for example, part 2 gets voted down, what happens next? Is that your question?
It's the whole motion. So if we can leave it on the table, or if it doesn't get voted.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're taking this motion in parts, and they'll either all get up, all get voted down, or some will get voted up, some will get voted down. I guess it would be worth asking the acting CEO if in particular part 2 was not carried, what happens next?
Look, if it is not carried, we have to come back to the council with a recommendation probably at the end of February to revisit the dates and the whole timing of the roadmap. To do that, there would be, through the Mayor, there would be cost implications with consultants, and there would be time implications in terms of us putting our hand on our heart and saying we are now not capable of delivering potentially what we set out to do in the original roadmap, which was, you know, JV agreements in place, ready for a stage 1 in August of 2026. That was the date. This is a very, very, if you like, finely tuned sprint project with a lot of detail. It depends on the roadmap. So if this doesn't get done, there will be some implications that we would have to report on at the end of February, and those implications, as I say, will include some bad news in terms of ability to deliver what we promised. So yes, part 2 is pretty important if you want to deliver the roadmap. In terms of taking a breath and all that kind of thing that has been mentioned tonight, I concur with a number of different comments that the roadmap is not affected if the plans are changed between now and June, May and June. That can still happen. But we need to move to the community consultation. That is a fundamental piece of this roadmap. That starts in February and goes through to the 21st of March.
So that explains the kind of mid and long-term impacts of part 2 not getting up. If part 2 doesn't get up, what does that practically mean for this group? Do we try to wedge in another workshop and try to come up with some options that we're happy with, which we may or may not make any ground on?
Yeah, look, through the Mayor again, workshops are again at a premium this time of the year. I think with the budget period coming up, we are back-to-back workshops. And I throw to the Director of Corporate Services over there. I think pretty much February, March is packed.
The first window for workshop is free towards the mid to end of May.
Thank you. All right, has everybody, I think everybody, have you not spoken yet?
Not in session.
Okay, I'm just checking, is it everybody else has spoken except for you and me? Go for it.
One small piece of housekeeping, option 2, fourth line down, mechanisms as part of option 3 should be as part of all options for consultation. 3 different options going out to consultation, all of which have traffic elements. I feel I don't know, I feel I might be in the minority this evening, but I'm happy to be in the minority. I think I spoke with a former councillor during the week and said I was quite vexed by this whole process and felt lost, and he told me to follow my heart, which I am doing, and my heart tells me that I am not ready to put these 3 options. Personally, I can't put these 3 options out for consultation. It's like walking into a restaurant, you sit down with the menu and you sit there and you look and you look and you go back through it again, you go back through it again, you go, there's nothing I like. There's not one of these 3 options that I would go happy to send it out. I'm happy if there's 2 options that don't necessarily hit the target, but I would like one of them to be something that I have confidence in, and I don't think that I have confidence in all 3 options. And the one reason is that there's none of these 3 options have the opportunity, which is for the minimum requirement of 3 courts for the croquet club. And it disturbs me that we have got next to the croquet, in option 2, next to the croquet club is a big little patch of green unused land. There's also 2 basketball courts. I don't understand why basketball courts can't be inside. Everywhere else there seems to be inside basketball courts. These ones seem to be outdoors. But there's not, in my heart, there is not an option that I would be happy to say, hey, look, you know, if you're doing your consultation, what about this one here? Yeah, I know we have to put stuff out there that we want to be people to have active, you know, involvement in even criticism. But you know, when you're doing stuff like this, you want to go out in your best frock. You want to put your best foot forward. You want to say, I'm proud of that one there. These 2 have got their compromises, but this one there, I'm gonna hang my hat on that. And unfortunately, I don't see an option where I can hang my hat on. And I'll be I will not be voting for the second part of this motion this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Stanton. So I am going to speak briefly from the chair. So I'm trying to pick up on Councillor Stanton's analogy. So I walk into a restaurant, I can't work out what I want, so I ask the people who I'm there with, what are you going to have? What do you think is going to be good? And that's how I inform myself if I'm uncertain. So, sorry? No, actually, I'd probably have a look at the menu online beforehand, and I wouldn't walk into a restaurant not knowing what I want. But what I aren't voting because I won't need to, because there's 7 people. If I was voting, and I'm allowed to say this, I would be voting in favour of part 2. And what I would encourage everybody around the table to do is to activate your networks, activate the people who have been in contact with you, and really get them to lobby and talk to them and get them to be part of this consultation process. That's what we really want. We want to turn the minds of 8 people. Of course, there's a lot of IP that's gone into this that we haven't been part of developing, but we want to turn the minds and the opinions of 8 people into the minds and opinions of 800 people. Because we always get better outcomes when we ask questions and we listen to what people say. Some of what's going to come back is going to be a bit crazy, some's going to be impossible, some's going to be fantastic, and it's going to uncover things that we have never thought of ourselves, because we simply can't think of all the eventualities around this table. So that would be my advice, is to activate the groups that you're part of, to get in touch with the various stakeholders, to help represent them, to get the best feedback possible as part of the process, and get as many as people as possible to have their say. That's what I would be doing, and that's what I will be doing as an elected member. And I think now is even though I do have differing opinions and of what I would like to go out, I'm sure we all have our own versions. So I think this is the right time to keep things moving, and we've got plenty of opportunity afterwards to take on board that feedback. So I'll head back to Councillor Nelson.
Sorry, just so called as a point of order, but can I just have a very, very brief question?
Yeah, certainly. As long as it's a question.
It is a question. Just in terms of process, recommendation 3 includes option 1B, which does pick up some of Mark's comments around, an option that has croquet club with all 4 courts. Is it possible to put 3 in as 2 and 2 as 3? Because, for example, hypothetically, I might be more inclined to vote for what is the current 2 if 3 was actually in. However, the reverse is also true. And so I'm just thinking it would be good to settle whether 1B is in or out before we vote on the whole package. I'm not sure if anyone agrees or disagrees with that, but I just thought that was a better logic to the order of the recommendations.
Well, because it means we've got 4,
Correct.
not 3.
Correct. Yeah, presume so.
I will take that as a variation, and therefore I'll ask the mover and seconder as to whether they're happy to accept that variation. So we're looking for a yes or a no from Councillor Nelson and Councillor Deputy Mayor. So we've got yeses, okay. So does that mean that we have to then change 3 to say endorse the 4 master plan options?
That's above my pay grade. There is a difficulty because if 2 doesn't get up, then it is only 3. So it would need to,
the agreed
included,
master plan
or the agreed,
options.
Yeah, the master plan options.
All right, all done, all dusted.
I can ask that question. So can I ask the question so scenario 1B that's presented here to be included in the consultation includes 4 croquet courts. Is that correct?
This one here does. 1B. What's this here?
Cricket.
No.
Cricket nets and 3 courts.
And 3, so it includes 3.
So it includes 3.
Yeah. Seem to recall no one loving the idea of the cricket nets being in that location at all.
We went through that.
Yeah. Anyway, it's if this gets up and it's out of our hands, it's in the hands of the public, and then it's back in our hands. Councillor Nelson, would you like to sum up?
Not really.
I'm going to ask you.
But
something,
I suppose I'm not going to ask.
Well, you can.
Just ask. Look, I think I've actually written down a couple of things here that weren't part of the debate, but I think one of the things is we do need to remember this is a master plan. This isn't, I don't know how many people have been involved in master planning processes, but it's not the final plan or the agreed plan, it's the master plan. And this is, nor are these our preferred options. These are just options that have been gathered together from community feedback to put back to the community for further feedback. And I think we need to remember that. Maybe I'm just very fortunate part of the consumer reference, the community reference group, in the fact that I've heard what the reference group has. And we've got people from Kintor, people from Flora, people from various parts of the community that we've heard all of their feedback. So maybe myself and the Mayor have just been very fortunate, and obviously Councillor Group, that we've heard a lot of this feedback already. And after reading the agenda, I think I mentioned this before, but I don't want to repeat it, but after reading the agenda and the motion and going back through the previous feedback, this is a reflection of what the community wants. And I think, pertinent to the Mayor's point before, is the fact that where the cricket nets are in option 1B, that was voted down quite harsh, because you can't have the cricket nets so far away from the cricket offices. So this certainly wasn't one. So much to obviously the dismay of some councillors here, I won't be agreeing to option 2, because I think putting 4 options forward is a bad move. And we already know that the community's turned down this option 1B anyway, but that's just my opinion. I get that the timing is set on us, but we've got to remember we did set this timing, and we want to try and keep the best we can and not put too much pressure back on the executive. We need to get this back out to the community so we can get their feedback back and look at the next stage, look at the next option. So I implore everyone to agree up to particularly 1 and 3, and let's get this moving.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. So we're taking this in parts. Part 1, all those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Part 2, all those in favour? Against? Division? Motion carried. So a division means that if you voted in favour, you will now stand up and be counted.
Change that one.
I didn't change it.
And our meeting procedures in
Nice.
November.
Yeah.
Nice.
Might be away. Okay, part 3, all those in favour? Against? Motion carried. All those in favour, kindly stand up.
Oh, I'm getting exercise tonight.
Part 4, all those in favour? Against? No one, carried unanimously. Part 5, all those in favour? Against? Motion not carried.
Division.
It's yours.
If you voted in favour of that motion, could you please stand for the record? And that's it. That's it, huh?
Go home.
That's
it.
Thank you. All those who are in the gallery for that item, thank you for joining us. You can stay for as long as you like, but you can also leave if you. Does anyone need a 5-minute break?
Yes.
So let's have a 5-minute adjournment. 9:06 will be back. Thank you. I didn't realise Steve was here. Thank you.
I think it's great. Did you want another drink?
Yeah, I was going to get
We can leave that one. Yes, we are.
I think the complaint that's going to come out and let my eyes on.
Sometimes it's quite good to just let members know.
Third coat.
Well done.
Did you disinfect it? I didn't do anything apart from that. Thank you so much.
See ya.
Oh, okay. Oh, shame. Yeah, okay.
Mate, you're done? It's your first meeting that you've attended.
I was 1 hour behind.
Once or so.
What was that? Oh, we came back.
Yeah.
Just going on. Yeah, so we were. No, I
They're all swaying downstairs to be away.
And then he had, yeah.
Benchmarking is key.
No, sorry, please.
You've been.
No, we're not going
Yeah, it is because
Someone's got a contract.
I'm 20 years after 2 years after I got over 20 years.
So I have to.
Thanks for that. No, you programmed through this one. Yes.
Yep, she's already
No, what are we on? Leave Blair out and take
That's what we're here for.
I'm quite pleased.
Yeah, well,
I've lost all my. Oh, the
yeah, that one's good.
Why is it not there?
That's the rest of it.
Oh, yeah. No, I've got one at home. No. I left the lights on in my car and my wife saw it as she was walking past. Is the car on? I don't think it's on. All right, we're ready to go. So 10.2. Blair Athol Tennis Club occupancy agreement update. Recommended on page 12. Do I have a mover? Councillor Nelson would like to speak to the motion.
Happy to, yes. Great job, guys, getting this through. Just a couple of questions, if I may. First of all, I understand the book report being funded by council. Obviously, council objective to have that in. Two questions. Well, sorry, it's one question combined into two. But if council's now taking over all the maintenance and the club is financially stable, which we can see from their financials, I'm curious as to why we're waiving the first 2 years of their fee, which is only $300 a year.
Acting CEO, can you shed some light on that, please?
I can certainly direct the question to Director Mr. Delena.
Yeah, through the chair, through the conversation we've had, you'll see that with the transition to the book court system, if you look at, I think it's attachment 3, there's a cost breakdown provided. There is going to be a higher ongoing cost to the club than the current cost. So just in a second, I'll just bring that up.
I did see with their affiliation to Tennis SA, there's a
affiliation fee. That's up. Just bear with me, council. Sorry. So on table page 25, the current actual costs for the club are close to $2,500. Once the full transition occurs, as been proposed, those costs increase to $3,000 in today's dollars, so effectively a $500 increase per year. Take your point that there is a sum of funds of $50,000 odd that are in their savings account, which is effectively can contribute to further improvements of the facility or otherwise. But I suppose that's a negotiation that had occurred in the sense that there is additional cost on the club to transition across, and we were seeking, so I suppose, offer what we thought was a fair and reasonable offer of assistance supporting them over the next couple of years on the basis they don't have a significant funding base. They've got 45 members. That some money had been built up over a long period of years, obviously 100 years, and effectively close to 100 years and $50,000 in the account. That was the rationale.
You know, I mean, $600 over 2 years is not going to break our bank, clearly. But I think there was just a little bit of, I guess, the sour taste in the mouth from the local community there, where they haven't had access to those courts for something like 7 or 8 years. They've just been sort of telling them it's private courts, but $600 is not going to break the bank. I was just curious as to the reason why. So let me give it that. But great job on this, and happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barnett.
Yes, yeah, I think it's a great result for both the groups involved, and there seems to be some win-wins there, I think, more than anything else. So I congratulate the tennis club and the staff that deal with the negotiations. So well done.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Any further discussion, any points that haven't been raised already that people would like to bring? No, looks like we're back to you, Councillor Nelson, for a summary.
Great job, well done.
Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Okay, so we are now up to item 10.4, quarterly project update, page 298. Do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Nelson.
I must say this is third year in council, and it's the first time I've actually loved reading a quarterly project update where we're actually coming in under budget on projects. So massive kudos to Sam and the team for actually, I remember coming in the first year and we're over budget on pretty much every single job, and coming in under budget now, identifying some savings, identifying other areas that we can invest some more money, and the updates of some of these projects. Fantastic job, particularly with Islington's Shared Pathway grant funding. Great to see we received that. Yeah, guys, great job.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Nguyen.
Yeah, I have to agree with Councillor Nelson. Great report. Lots of work's been completed for Prospect. Great to see the St Helens Rotunda completed and finally being used by the community. And also to add to Councillor Nelson's point about the Islington Shared Path, that's great that we've received the funding and also the opportunity for further funding, a total of $800,000, I think, yep, from state and federal. So yeah, that's great work on the team for being able to get that for us, and yeah, commend Sam and his team.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further discussion, Councillor Drake?
Just very briefly, again, just concur with my colleagues. Great report. and particularly the rotunda, which has been a pain of everyone's existence for a long time. It's great to have it back and running.
There should have been a table in the rotunda, though, apparently.
Sorry?
There should have been a picnic table in the rotunda, apparently.
And a pole, and I mean, when do you start and stop?
Never stop.
Anyway, that's not what I want to talk about. Never seen one. St Helens Park Kindergarten. I just noticed that there's a partial floor collapse in the kindy storage room, which contains a compacted storage system, and we are paying for some remediation works. I'm just aware of another item that we'll be looking at. Is that at our cost, or is that the department's cost ultimately? I'm just not quite sure where that. It's not a big cost, say 25k, but it's still a big cost. Whether that's actually on us or not.
I read it that we're footing the bill, unless I'm reading it the wrong way, acting CEO.
Through the Mayor, look, the way the understanding is of cost responsibility between landlord and tenant, the landlord, being the council, is responsible for works of a capital nature. The tenant, the Department of Education, responsible for works of a maintenance nature. So this is most likely a structural nature, and the cost is an estimate at this stage of not repairs but some investigation to the extent of the capital works, and I suppose from a particularly to understand whether there's any WHS or any safety risk whatsoever in the structure. So we feel a responsibility to move forward with that expense.
Yep, makes perfect sense. Thanks.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other comments, Councillor Beckett?
Yeah, just in relation to the mention of the loss of a bus shelter on Prospect Road that was owned by Pro, and they're not going to replace it. Now, apparently it wasn't our asset, but I really think we need to actually increase the number of shelters. There's justification here to say, oh, people are only alighting in most cases. If you think about yesterday, or on the weekend, it was 37 degrees, and we're waiting for a bus on a public holiday. I mean, I think it's great where we can have more, because there's no trees or anything. So I personally would like to see things like that replaced, as opposed to just lost. I don't know how others feel, and I'm not going to be agreeing, but yeah, it's showing us maybe an opportunity loss. Maybe seeking in for the next budget to have it replaced.
Thank you, Councillor Beckett. Any further discussion? Just a couple of things from the chair. I did quiz Sam Delena on a couple of the statuses of projects in there, given minimal amount of expenditure, a lot of work to do in a short period of time, and Sam's explanation was a good one. It was a matter of timing of submitting progress payments and those types of things like that. So he didn't have any concerns with certain projects where the completion date was only within the next 4 months, but based on the amount of expenditure that there appeared to be a lot of work to be done, it was simply a matter of timing there as well. So I was pleased to hear that clarification, because that made a few things add up that weren't quite adding up for me. If there's no further discussion, let's head back to Councillor Nelson for a summary.
No, just very quickly. I mean, I've had similar experiences. I know when I read it on the weekend, it was like there's a lot of those things exactly as I said, and about the finalisation of some of these jobs. We're doing a quick drive around, and as Sam knows, I've been out to Livingston Avenue far too often this last 12 months. But yeah, look, there's no issues. And I think one of the statements I made regarding an upcoming motion is that, you know, seeing these projects actually come in on time, on budget, is just a credit to the team. So well done.
Thank you for the summary. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Okay, item 10.5, second budget review 2024-2025. Recommendations on page 327. Do I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Nelson.
It's going to get someone else to turn, but sure. As I just mentioned in the previous motion, it's great to see some of these savings that have come through. No one likes, I'm sure I speak on all of us, no one likes seeing the carry forwards and the time changes and everything else, but I think it's a very, very good budget. Good budget review. It's nice to see some money coming back into us with some of the savings, so well done.
Thank you. A seconder for this motion. Councillor Drew.
I'm excited to second this motion. Thank you. There's a lot of work in this. I just had one question. There was a way saving $115,000 due to the tender outcomes and because of FOGO, as I read it. And then there's a once-off increase in footpath repairs of the same amount. Was that a deliberate, on and off, or were the footpath repairs just happen to be in the vicinity of the same saving amount from waste?
Anything so?
Look, I'm going to defer or pass that question to the Director of Corporate Services or
anyone who wants to take
Director is Sam Delaney.
Thank you. I'm not sure. Councillor, were you at the service level workshop?
Yep.
We did have a conversation in that point, really, but it was to do with effectively just some context in respect to the backlog that we're getting in terms of footpath repairs.
Yeah.
And with the savings that we've identified for waste, we thought it was a great opportunity to be able to bring in some casual contract staff to work under our direction to work on the streets we've put on relay, and particularly addressing some of these high priority areas. So it's an opportunity for council to consider through the budget review being able to take those savings and bring it back into that sort of that activity.
Yeah.
Not as a council. We believe there's high merit. I think the community, we've heard from the community in various forms. The ITP consultation and the more recent one that effectively with respect to service levels, with respect to our footpaths, in their opinion being mentioned. And there is a correlation, which I spoke about at the service level workshop, that we haven't been able to take our proactive precinct works where we have a crew covering around the city for 2 weeks at a time across a span of 12 months. Doing these sorts of things because we've just had more maintenance burden with a number of reserves being either coming on board or service levels increasing as existing reserves upgrade. So we'll look to address that through the budget process in terms of bringing some additional, hopefully, getting some additional funding to outsource some of those activities. But for now, the question is really about just addressing the backlog of maintenance requests.
And my apologies, I do recall that now at the service level agreement workshop. I was listening, had my dots. But I just when I saw that, I thought because the numbers are the same, I wasn't sure if it's demand driven or opportunity driven, but it's opportunity driven. Apart from that, I certainly commend the report. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any points that haven't been raised? Councillor Becker.
Yeah, I concur on that. Often when you see savings, the first question I ask is it a service level crop? And certainly with moving money from one place to another, if we can hit our service levels, and that will speak to another item about customer feedback, because as councils, as elected members, our role is to ensure things are funded and services are delivered to what the level is endorsed. So if we can be really clear on that, we know we can push and pull a little bit. So I really love the detail in the budget review. But always look where there's a savings for vacancies, what's dropping. So I think that's been answered, and I'm very encouraged by the recent discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further discussions? Otherwise, I'll head back to Councillor Nelson for summary.
Nothing more to say, thank you.
Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 10.6, draft customer feedback policy recommendations on page 342. Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Nguyen.
I'm happy to move this. This is a new policy, and recommend this one on bringing this to us.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett would like to second the motion.
Yes, I think there are some very positive things that are being looked at in here. I especially note about the centralised feedback register. So I look forward to seeing how that will work. and yeah, I think that was there are quite a lot of good points I think in there. That was one of the main ones that stood out to me.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Any further discussion on this one? I'll take Councillor back, then Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, I'd actually like to.
Do you have some words?
Just to change both points to the draft feedback campaigns policy and so while Gwen's back, yeah, and I just briefly spoke to it. So I know we had endorsed a policy quite recently, and it's one of the things as an elected member, I try to dot my I's and cross the T's and save all my correspondence and check, use the portal and make sure we've got processes, because obviously we're strategic, we're not operational, and that's definitely where we should be. And I think having a really strong policy is important, and I think the merit in what's come to us is actually bringing together 2 or 3 different parts and actually bring it into one thing, and also centralising some of those feedback systems. I guess what I did question a little bit is removing the word complaints, and I'm a believer in plain language, and people want to complain, and I don't think we should be frightened by that word. So when people are looking for, where do I complain, feedback, positive, negative, we welcome it. And I think, again, my role as elected member, I'm there to listen. So there might be merit in some of the complaints, that you pull it apart and whatever, and sometimes people just want to be listened to. So I looked around at other councils. So Adelaide has a complaints, customer feedback and complaints policy. State government have, feedback and complaints policy. And I understand we're trying to be different, but I guess the perception is, is the wording I found a little bit maybe a bit ambiguous. So I'll leave it with other elected members. I'd like to move the amendment, but it's up to other elected members.
So we'll need a seconder for that amendment, then we'll need to vote on it. So I take it you're moving the amendment, Councillor De Backer. Do I have a seconder for the amendment? Councillor Standen? I don't think you get to speak to this. I'm not going to let you anyway, even if you could, because it's getting late. We need to put that to the vote. So all those in favour of accepting the amendment? Against? Motion carried. The amendment is now the motion that we will be voting on, and I'm happy to continue to take commentary from those who have not yet spoken. Would anybody else like to talk to this motion? Councillor Nelson.
I think there was a couple of things in there that I guess I just had my concerns. Not major sticking points, but I am a stickler for high quality service, which I think in the past we've sort of lacked on. I think the Tier 2 level timeframes don't really hit my expectations. So obviously we've got something there that we can make some minor changes, which I'm hoping that the CEO, or acting CEO, will make note of. In here we've got that, or I would like to see that the Tier 2 timeframes actually have 3 different terms, being an acknowledgement, a response, and then a resolution. We don't actually have that at the moment. It's something I've taken from our own policy from my executive role, is we've got acknowledgement within 24 hours, a response within 5 days, and resolution within 20 days. So it'd be nice if the acting CEO can just take note of those for some minor changes. The question I have is that what is the alternate to 7.2? We have 7.2, which really isn't clear, which just, if I may read on behalf of myself, in the case of a complaint regarding contact with the CEO, a written complaint must be provided to the Mayor, except in circumstances where it would be inappropriate to do so. So there's no further action. So I'm curious as to whether the next phase station that should be, please refer to 11.1, which is reports to the Ombudsman. So that's just a question to the author.
Acting CEO.
Through the Mayor, I might defer to Ms Taylor to sort of respond to that question and give the clarification.
Sure, thank you through the Mayor. Just on your request there, we're currently trialling the IT capacity to give that automatic response. So I guess I'm just mindful of putting it in a policy, therefore we have to do it. And if the pilot does not, we have to go in and do it manually, and we get 500 of that a day. I just don't currently have the exact resources to be able to do it, but we are trialling it. It's a matter of the authority moving up to the cloud, and we're currently in the process. Council has supported that IT strategy, so that is in the works. I'm just mindful of committing us to that via a policy that's not quite ready for yet, but I have made a commitment to you guys at the previous workshop that we will get there. So I'm just being a little bit mindful of committing to something I probably might not get it to the front, but I take your feedback on point around the tier 2 and the time frames for sure.
And the 7.2?
Can you remind me of 7.2 again?
Yep, so that's one I just read out. It's basically this. So 7.2 once again states, in the case of a complaint regarding the conduct of the CEO, a written complaint must be provided to the Mayor, except in circumstances where it would be inappropriate to do so. There's no explanation about what makes it inappropriate or what the next steps are. I'm just wondering whether we should have on the end of that one, please refer to 11.1, where a report has to be made to the Ombudsman.
Thank you. Councillor Green.
Sorry, now I just want to check a process issue. With that amendment, we would normally debate an amendment. Just because I didn't have a chance to sort of hear views for or against. I just want to check my understanding. Sorry to do this.
No, that's fine.
But I voted against it because I don't agree with it. But I don't think we had an opportunity to actually debate that or get advice from staff or management.
Sorry, no. Yep. So you are correct. Everybody can speak, and there are only 2 amendments permitted per motion. So, are we too late, or can we rewind? Acting CEO, what's your thoughts?
Well, I would, through the Mayor, defer to the governance manager here, but I suspect that we probably should do what Councillor Group has suggested, and that is remove the original motion and then seek for the mover's amendment to that motion. And I think we jump straight into the amendment.
Yeah.
So I'm quite happy, I'm comfortable to recommend that we take a step back here.
I hesitate in doing that because the outcome may be no different, but I think from a process perspective, and given that there are people potentially at home watching this, we want to be exemplar in terms of our process.
All right, let's rewind. Let's forget the last 5 minutes, apart from some of the good commentary that was made.
You know, I'm going to say all that all over again.
No, we got that.
Oh, we got that. That's all right.
And we are going to go back in time to 9:27, and we are going to say that Councillor De Backer has put forward an amendment and has moved it. It has been seconded by Mark Standen. I incorrectly said that I wouldn't allow him to speak, and so now I'll allow him to speak.
You don't have to.
If I'm allowed to debate, am I allowed to have more time after I speak?
You can sum up, I reckon. How's that sound? You can sum up.
Alright, cool. I appreciate I wasn't wanting to offend anyone by way of the process. Again, I just looked at what the across our neighbouring councils, and I understand the intent of changing the language, but it does this thing. I mean, I saw acronyms in some of our reports today, and I don't know. At the end of the day, these are public documents. You know, people are trying to find where they need to go, and they like a clear process. And it's sometimes an uncomfortable word. It's not uncomfortable for me. I used to work in retail. I welcome complaints because I know what's wrong, and if I know what's wrong, I can fix it. So I think in trying to be, and I think using staff is abhorrent, and I definitely agree with the principle sitting behind it. But you know, sometimes people are upset. We hear it because it gets escalated, and I really like saying, look, there's a formal complaints process. And this is the flowchart, and I'd really encourage, if there aren't flowcharts in here, that there are. And again, plain language, people that speak English as a second language. I really like, you know, very clear, concise things, because if we don't do it really clearly, people will go to where they other places to complain, which has the complaints word, and they go to the Ombudsman. or they do a section 270. And that's what we don't want to do. We actually want to take complaints in-house and manage them. And I think the language is really important to be clear. That's my thoughts, other elected members. So I believe in the policies in behind it. And I certainly don't agree with treating staff without respect and being able to accept a decision of administration. And I'm very clear with that. I said, look, that's an operational decision. You'll have to refer to staff and have the CEO's discretion to be able to, or the manager's discretion to say, that's the decision, and stand behind that. But I'd like to see complaints in the policy itself, because I think that's what people are looking for when they're trying to find it on our website and as a policy.
Thank you. So, Councillor Stanton.
I'm all for calling a multi-material manual digging in from this way. Let's call it a complaint.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Oh, that's the group.
I totally support this. No. So, look, for me, I accept the intent behind the amendment. However, the policy hasn't been structured to call it a complaints policy. That's my concern. So, contemporary language is feedback policy. I think that's still calling it a shovel or a spade. Because this is actually not just looking for the bad things, it's also looking for the good things, and that's what feedback does. Feedback can be good, or it could be a complaint about something. If you read through the policy, it talks on multiple occasions around feedback, including complaints. So it seems contrary that we've got a policy that's called complaints, but then we kind of call it out in every paragraph. It makes more sense if it's a feedback policy. So for me, I just think changing the name probably doesn't go far enough. If the intent of the chamber is to change the name, then we actually have to go back and review the policy itself. So on that basis, if the amendment gets up, I'll vote down. I won't vote for the policy just because it needs work. It doesn't make sense as it's written, and for a reader, it doesn't actually pull out that feedback notion of what are the good things happening as well. We have to accept we do good things as well. We don't all do bad things. We sometimes focus on the things that go wrong. Sometimes that's what we receive. But in my time here, I've also received lots of, hey, this is good. Someone tonight in the break said to me, it was great to see how this process works. So they might not be happy with the outcome necessarily of our debate and our decision. They're happy to see how the process works. So I just think it doesn't quite go far enough just changing the name of the policy. I think we have to change the intent of the policy as well, which is different. And so I won't support the amendment, but if the amendment gets up, I won't support the motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I do agree with Councillor Brew. Feedback, is feedback. It could be positive or negative. Yeah, I would be happy for it to mean as just feedback. And just on the topic of the actual policy, I think this is great. This is something that we can now refer people to, and there's a document that they can read the process, and just your understanding of what the expectations are. So this will be a great document for us to use. And thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, Councillor Bonnet?
Yes, I just wonder that if I'm somebody and I want to find this policy, so hopefully the search engine would lead me to including complaints, and it's combining three things now. So where is it? Yeah. So it's combining three existing policies: the request for service policy, complaints policy, and unreasonable complainants policy. So somewhere in the now then going down to the actual customer feedback policy. So somewhere there, so it's got related documents, but yeah, I'm just trying to, how can we link here? I'm not too about customer feedback and then putting straight away, leading into complaints as being suggested. So, yeah, I think I'd be happier if we had draft customer feedback and write where all policy. It goes straight into this combined, I think it's only under the scope, is it, where it says it's this policy applies to feedback, including complaints. So, yeah, I'm just wondering, so if I'm looking at how do I complain? So, would there be a separate complaint form within this whole policy when you actually go into it? I was asking a question at the start. If I just want to give feedback, if I actually want it to be a complaint, so how is that? It tells me as a client or a customer.
I think that was mentioned in the report or in the policy, and I suspect it will workflow situation that you will log in and you'll choose, I would like to do this or this, then it may take you down a different path.
Yeah.
That's how I would do it if I was designing it as a system.
Yeah, so I think it was brought up about having flow charts. So again, I didn't see anything sort of like that in there. Yeah, I always like those because it takes you down and you say, oh, all right. So feedback, oh, all right, I really want to make a complaint or I want to do this. That leaves me off. So that's my only thing, that if we have just draft customer feedback without the complaints, somewhere in there needs to be clearly where you go as a customer. So I'm not really seeing that. I may have missed it.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Councillor Nelson.
Yeah, just a really good read through the scope and the purpose and everything else of this, and we were very quick to agree to Councillor Backer's variation on this, or amendment on this. I understand Councillor Groot's feedback or complaint on the.
It's feedback, not a complaint. Okay.
But I don't think it fundamentally changes the policy enough to worry too much about the framework of the policy. So there's certainly pros and cons for both. I don't see a fundamental issue with having the word complaints policy in the policy itself. I think there is added bonus in there when searching or when other things. So probably on the opposite page, where I understand the thing there, but I don't see it as a fundamental issue. So I think it's important.
Okay, unless there's anyone else who wants to make a comment, we will now vote on adopting the amendment. Unless Councillor Backer, you need to sum up.
I'll just sum up. I think either which way we go, the reason I included at the bottom there, with minor administrative changes retaining terms, complements, feedback and complaints. So if we need to put complaints, complements, complaints to make the policy make sense, there's room in there to do that. Like Christine says, a lot of things depend on a search term to find it, and it might not be within our system. It might be on Google. So it doesn't. If it doesn't have the word complaints in, and I'm looking, complaint, prospect, Google, prospect council, you want that to come up. You want that page to come up. You want the policy to come up, because what I spend a lot of my time doing is exactly that, directing our residents and ratepayers to the right page on the website to get the process. So, I think to have it in the name and throughout the document doesn't change. Encourages.
So we're supporting the amendment adoption. So when we vote, just to remember, we are voting on accepting the amendment to this motion, and if that is voted in favour of, we are now then voting on the motion which includes the amendment, but if it is not voted in favour of, we are referring back to the original motion. So voting on incorporating the amendment, all those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all those against? Motion carried. So the motion we're now voting on includes the amendment, and does everyone get to speak again? Surely, does anyone want to speak again? Okay.
Well, I'd started, and then so I think I've still got 4 minutes and 30 seconds.
4 minutes and 20 seconds.
I was just going to make the point that the word complaint appears 45 times in the policy, so I don't think there's any issue with not finding the word complaint in that policy. That's all. Oh, and sorry, and so just because I think I still do have the floor legitimately. I won't be supporting this motion, not because I don't think the work is great. Thank you, staff, for doing that, but I just don't think we should be including this. So it's a matter of principle, but totally support the work, and I'm sure we'll get it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any points that haven't already been raised many times?
I've got no complaints.
I'll take that one, Councillor Holland. I therefore move back to Councillor DeBacker, who gets to again sum up the motion that we've just amended, if you see the need.
I encourage you.
With that, I'll put it to the vote. So all those in favour? All those against? Motion carried. Opportunity missed there, Councillor DeBacker.
No, you missed it. I think that was great restraint. I think you should be thanking one.
Okay, let's keep the ship moving along. So,
it's what?
Ship.
Oh.
Check the recording. That's what I said the first time.
Okay.
I'm fairly sure of it. Reports for information. There are several reports for information. Oh, hang on a second. No, we've got 10.7. April Ordinary Council Meeting, change of meeting date, page 355. Seems like a fairly simple one. Do I have a mover for this? Councillor Nelson, seconder. Would either of you like to speak at length at it? Any discussion on this motion? I don't need to sum up. Oh, sorry.
Yes, I think
Councillor
I've
Bunning.
already sent in that I'll have to be an apology for that.
I think that's been received, yeah.
On prepaid thing, holiday, a hospital.
Lucky you. Lucky you.
You're going as well?
No.
Oh, sorry. I thought when you said I hear me. Yep, I hear you.
Have you got your ears?
No, I thought maybe you were going away with
as far as I know, haven't received.
Well, and your husband, I should say.
Haven't received the invitation yet.
Oh, well, that's well.
All right, let's put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Oh, sorry. I suppose I have to be down.
I'm taking that as a.
I'm not really.
Correct.
All right, now we can move to 11 reports for information. If you would like to pull out any of these reports, you should feel free to do so. Any reports which aren't pulled out will be voted on block. Moved and seconded, no discussion, and voted on block. So item 11.1, I would like to pull that one out myself. Item 11.2, would anyone like to pull that one out? Okay, item 11.3, would anyone like to pull that one out? Councillor DeBacker. Item 11.4, would anyone like to pull that one out? Councillor DeBacker. Okay, we will now move and vote on the ones which were pulled out, and then we will vote on the one which was lonely and on block by itself, which was that one there. Okay, so I just wanted to draw your attention. In the report you would have noticed there's a new line which is which pulls out advocacy activities. Noting also that today we sent out letters to various state and federal members, including Minister Champion, Lucy Hood, Steve Georgianis, and possibly other people, inviting them to a briefing with regards to the Prospect Lifestyle Precinct consultation process. So we thought that was prudent to bring this next stage to their attention, because we are wanting to keep those stakeholders closely in the loop with regards to progress, such that if they start thinking about any opportunities for their involvement, they can be involved. So that's an additional advocacy effort. We presented the Broadview Tennis Club proposal to Senator Don Farrell the other day, and that went well. He didn't say, yeah, here's a check, but he didn't throw that in the bin and kicks out of his office seat. So that was just a couple of points I wanted to make. So I'm going to move that one. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barnett. Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you for your report.
Any further discussion? Any questions? If not, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Let's do item 11.2, a mover and a seconder. So a mover for that one, Councillor Nelson, a seconder, Councillor Barnett. So there's no discussion. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? 11.3, Councillor De Backer, would you like to ask a question, or would you like to move that and ask a question or make some comments? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see this in this agenda. The SPPC deals with planning changes. Now, planning changes may seem innocuous and, you know, like a lot of detail, but they can make big changes to our area. So the two are the Future Living Code Amendment and Greater Adelaide Regional Plan. So basically, it's about building more houses, which is a great thing. It's building, I feel, in the right place. We've also got an SPPC committee meeting this Thursday. Unfortunately, because of a personal commitment, I'm not going to be able to be there. However, there's some really strong feedback from our planning team into the appropriateness of some outcomes in our established areas. So I'd encourage you, if you've got residents that are interested in planning matters and inappropriate development, to keenly look at the some of the information on the SPPC agendas. This one upcoming and the previous one was gone. So really just to let to members. That's all I wanted to say on it.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Barnett, would you like to speak to the motion?
It's just that I do commend us and commend our staff for bringing all the key issues that you'll find in the letter on page 414. So that pretty well sums it up. So we now have another one about parking and stuff all coming out as well. Yep, so I think they're all very applicable to us as an inner city, inner metropolitan area. So I commend the report and what is in our submission feedback.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Any further discussion on this motion? Any points that haven't been raised? If not, I will head back to Councillor De Backer for a summary if required. Thank you. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. And 11.4, Economic Development Growth Strategy, Annual Progress Report, recommendations, page 443. Councillor Backer, did you want to move that with some comments or ask some questions?
A couple of questions. One was difficult to read when it's embedded into the report. Some of the columns get cut off, and I'm just wondering if that can be remedied when it goes out.
On the left-hand side, in particular, notice
so I couldn't see what it was referring to. I did read through it, but again, I don't know if I saw the word placemaking. Now, I know we've got a placemaking workshop. I'm just double checking that placemaking is actually being captured in economic growth strategy.
Acting CEO.
Look, through the Mayor, well, yes, it is in principle, but again, I'll ask the Senior Economic Development Officer, who is patiently waited in the background there, to have a little comment on this. And before he does, just to thank him for an enormous amount of work that goes into this, the actions that are up to date in this particular strategy that you signed off 18 months ago or so. Been doing a terrific job, but now if you remember the question, Tyson, do you mind answering that placemaking?
Yeah, through the Mayor, I think acting CEOs hit the nail on the head. I think in principle placemaking is referred to in the economic development strategy, and in the summary report for 2024, I think there is commentary around the upcoming placemaking workshop and work going into the Mayor's motion previously considered as well in relation to placemaking.
sometimes it's not searchable. Yes, but I've found it now, but the columns are cut off. And, because I think that's a really important synergy, because economic development is actually part of the Venn diagram of all the things we do for, you know, community and economic development and infrastructure. So I'm really encouraged, and it's really good to have a strategy that we can keep track of what the goals we're achieving as well. So thank you.
Thank you for that summary. Hang on, no, we're on to here, so that's moving. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Deputy Mayor Nguyen, would you like to speak to the motion?
I just would like to commend Tyson for this extensive report. I think it's great, especially for me as well, to be able to have this data and to look at this information.
Thank you. Any further discussion, any points that haven't already been raised? People would like to raise. If not, I'll head back to Councillor Back for a summary if required. Thank you. Let's put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Okay, we are now general business. 12.1 Council member reports and briefings. We've received written reports from Councillor Barnett, Councillor DeBacker and Deputy Mayor Nguyen. Thank you for all the hard work. I'd also like to thank Deputy Mayor Trin Nguyen for stepping in to officiate at the citizenship ceremony. You know how hard it is to say that word without getting it wrong? It is, trust me. Last Thursday at short notice. I had lots of great feedback from Uncle Tamaru and Steve Georgianis, Lucy Hood, about how you officiated, and whilst I wasn't there, I had great reports about how you were able to tell your story, and it really resonated with the people who were there as part of their story as well, so thank you for your work there. 12.2 motions on notice there are nil, questions with notice there are nil, urgent motions without notice. I'll move on quickly on that one. Doesn't look like there's any. 12.5 late reports. No late reports. So we can now move on to item 13, confidential items. We will now put a halt to the